Hey guys, welcome back to Cheat Day Sports. Hope you're all having a great, amazing day. Um, but today we're just going to be talking about the college football playoff rankings, where we think everybody's going to be sitting, where I think, because the rankings drop, I'm going to be getting this video out a little bit later. It'll probably be 4 o'clock when it goes up, and the rankings come out at 5. But I'm just going to give what I think the rankings are going to look like, at least for the top six. And then tomorrow we'll go more in depth about why the committee ranked and who they should have ranked higher than who. But let's just get right into it. If we take a look, this is from last week, and it's Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, and Oregon. I mean, as of last week, I didn't really have a problem with these rankings. The only one I would have switched was having Washington above Florida State. But if we take a look at what I think is going to happen, I think Georgia and Ohio State are going to flip. I think Georgia is going to go to 1. I think Ohio State's going to drop down to 2. And that's just because Ohio State against Rutgers, for 3.5 quarters, Ohio State looked pretty bad. Their defense is amazing. But I don't think Kyle McCord is that great of a quarterback. I don't think he's good enough to win you a title. But and with Georgia, if we're doing strength of schedule, Ohio State's, again, I think Notre Dame was ranked 9th when Ohio State beat them, but I mean, that win's looking less and less as impressive on their resume for the schedule this year, just because Notre Dame just lost to Clemson. So I don't know how they're taking in if a team was 9th, but then they go on a 3-game skid and then lose to a bad Clemson team. I don't know how they're taking that into account, but with how it is, Georgia just beat a pretty scrappy, tough Missouri team, in the SEC. I think Missouri is a pretty solid team. Missouri beat Kansas State earlier in the year. So I think it's a solid win. So that's why I would have Georgia jump Ohio State. And I would have Michigan stay at 3. Then I would have Florida State and Washington flip, just because, again, Florida State looked pretty bad, again, for just like how Ohio State did against Rutgers. Florida State looked really bad against Pitt for 3.5 quarters. I really thought Pitt was going to pull a huge upset, but they just didn't have the athletes. But those are the only. And then I would have Washington at 4, Florida State at 5, and Oregon at 6. But if we take a look, I'll go more in depth. If we take a look, Notre Dame was ranked 9th when Ohio State played them, and Ohio State doesn't. Michigan State's bad. Minnesota's bad, and then they have the big game with Michigan to close out the year. So Ohio State's not going to really move too much if they drop. I could see them staying 1 or 2 up until the Michigan game, and that's going to decide that. If we look at Georgia, Georgia really hasn't played anybody. Kentucky was kind of a fraud at 20 when they beat them, but that Missouri win's nice, but now they play Ole Miss. Given Georgia, it's going to be a home game at Athens for Georgia, but man, Ole Miss, Jackson Dart's been playing really good as of late. So I think that's going to tell a lot. And then they play Tennessee. So these last 3 games, they could go 3-0. They could go 2-1. They could go 1-2. It all just depends. That Ole Miss, I think that's going to be a really telling if Georgia's going to go up and claim the number 1 spot. Because if they go in and beat Ole Miss, I don't see how you wouldn't give them the number 1 spot. But these last couple games are going to be super telling for that Georgia team. And then Michigan, if this was a group of 5 schedule, they wouldn't even be ranked yet. Look, East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, and Purdue. They've played the worst teams in the Big Ten. And given they already started out the year ranked, whatever, they are undefeated and they haven't had any close games. But man, Michigan, up until this week, they play at Penn State, which that this is another like how Georgia's playing Ole Miss. This Michigan Penn State game is gonna tell a lot because Penn State's defense is really good. Just their offense is not that great, and we saw it when they played Ohio State. But this game's gonna be really telling. I mean, if you beat Penn State, and then they should beat Maryland, then you beat Ohio State. I mean, Michigan, all these teams, if they win out, have a case to be the number one team. Given Michigan's had the easiest schedule before these last 3 games, but I mean, you play the 3rd best team in Penn State in the Big Ten, and then you play Ohio State, which I don't see how you wouldn't give them the number 1 spot in those rankings if they win out. Yeah, and if we look at Florida State, I mean, that LSU win's looking good. I mean, LSU's been playing really well. Jane Daniels has been playing really well. But other than that, they played a hobble Duke team. And then they barely beat Clemson. They barely beat Boston College. So, and you had a scrap against Pittsburgh for 3.5 quarters. And your schedule is Miami, which I don't know which Miami team you're going to get. But they should beat Miami. And then North Alabama, and then that Florida game being at Florida and it's rivalry game. I mean, rivalry games, even if, say, Florida could be 1-9 and they go play that game and Florida could win rivalry games, you never know what's going to happen. But I mean, if Florida State wins out, of course they'll still be in the playoff, I think, but I don't know how you're any higher than the 4th seed in the playoffs. So I don't think Florida State really deserves to be there. I don't think they deserve to be ahead of Washington, because if we take a look, they have that win over Oregon. I think could be, besides Ohio State's win over Penn State, that win over Oregon could be the best win in the country to me, for any team. And then they go in and take care of USC. They have a big game against Utah this week, which if they lose that game, I don't see this Oregon leapfrogs them, and then they could end up meeting in the conference championship again. But I don't see Oregon beating Washington at a neutral site game. I think the only reason they won that, they had the hype of the crowd. It was a home game for them, but at a neutral site, if they meet up, if Washington and Oregon meet back up in the Pac-12 championship game, I don't see Washington beating Oregon again, especially with how Dan Lanning has that team playing. I don't think there's any way. But yeah, if we just go back and look, I would have Georgia at 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, Washington 4, Florida State at 5, and then Oregon at 6. And having Oregon be the best one-loss team, I think, is safe having them at 6. But if we just take a look, I think there is some action going on. Everybody loves some action, some shitty weather, some MAC teams playing. I mean, everybody loves it. Everybody loves having college football on a Tuesday. And I'll be watching these games. We'll get some picks for today, with Ball State and Northern Illinois. Ball State's not very good this year. Northern Illinois is middle of the pack in the MAC, but I'll take Northern Illinois in that. I think they'll cover. We have Central Michigan and Western Michigan. I mean, we have that whole Connor Stallions being, if it was him, on the Central Michigan sideline. Who knows? Maybe Connor Stallion. Maybe they're bringing Connor Stallions. Back on as an assistant. Who knows? But I'm gonna take Central Michigan in this. No real. I mean, you have Western Michigan, the 3-point favorite, but I'm gonna take Central Michigan in this. With a little bit of an upset for Vegas, and then we have Ohio and Buffalo. Man, this is a tough game. It's up at Buffalo, clear up northern New York. I'm going to go Buffalo in this. I just think the weather could be, it could be a little bit chillier than, it says 42 right there, but could be a little bit colder. But I'm going to take Buffalo to get the upset. No real rhyme or reason. I mean, they're both 3-2 in conference play. I think it could be a coin flip, but I'm going to take Buffalo in that. And we'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to keep making videos. You know, I just really enjoy making these videos, talking about college football, the sport I love. But if you guys could leave a like, you know, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think your score predictions for these games are going to be, or what you think the rankings are going to look like for tomorrow. And we'll be discussing the rankings in tomorrow's video. But I hope you guys all have a great cheat day. Again, we have college football on. There's basketball. Pac-12 basketball started up last night. You know, shout out to University of Utah getting the win over Eastern Washington. But yeah, have a great cheat day. Go grab a slice of pizza. Go get some tacos. Go grab whatever. But I hope you guys all have a great day. We'll catch you later. Peace.